Rest in flu.
Folks, we have a very special guest for you tonight.
Hello, we've been expecting you.
This is not a test. Your government and corporate overlords have implemented new measures for your own health and safety. We are just following orders.
Everything is going to be fine.
I'd like to introduce...
Welcome everyone to another If by Whiskey. Jake, you are under the whiskey today. What's going on, man? How you doing? You're muted, bud, I think.
Sorry, I'm practicing my mute button because I want to be like free. No,
and we do have our special guest who just jumped in, so just so we know. But welcome, sir. We'll get you in a second, Andrew.
I've had a cold for the last couple of days. My toddler coughed on me, and they don't know how to cover their mouth. So I'm here. I'm gonna watch the mute button so I don't cough in everybody's ear. But I'm here. I didn't want to miss this one, and I've been looking forward to this. So how are you doing?
I've been looking forward for this one for a very long time. This is the introduction I have. The mighty Power Ranger, the mighty Boss Tone. I like this gentleman because Jason, our previous co-host, Jason Drop the Mask Pod, had a great conversation with him a while ago. Tribalism is dumb. Welcome everyone. The mighty Andrew Heaton, please.
A pleasure
Andrew,
to be
how
here.
are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for that very strong intro. I feel so welcome. Thank you. And I appreciate that you're braving illness to talk to me. I'm glad I am sober enough to handle this one.
Well, that
is the thing.
I'll be under the whiskey later. When we get done with this, I gotta numb the throat. So I didn't want to get too going before the show. But I'm happy you're here. I'm happy to talk with you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. So hey, tell me a little bit about yourselves. I assume If by Whiskey. Am I right in thinking that is from that speech from Prohibition? Where
Yes,
did I get
sir,
it?
It is off the If by Whiskey fallacy. You nailed it. It's
Okay,
perfect.
you guys are okay then. You're okay. I'm glad I'm here.
Well, that's the thing. You spoke with Jason, Drop the Mask Pod months ago, and he and I collaborated, and we came up together with If by Whiskey. It was actually his idea, and was off of the Soggy Sweat speech, and it was so funny, how it works perfectly politically. It's like I can take on any topic, and it's a beautiful.
That's pretty good.
segment.
You could be a switch hitter too if you want to talk to Rex from Whiskey Tribe. Totally legitimate. You could talk about whiskey. If you want to talk about politics, everything's a little bit better with whiskey. Like it's a good intro topic or a good frame for the show.
That's why
It's even better because Jason's whiskey smiles. So
yeah, when Mark needed a co-host, I stepped in, and I'm already a whiskey lover myself. So I was like, well, at first I didn't realize that it was the speech, and then when I was like, oh, okay, well now I'm in even more so.
Which Jason is this? I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to say the last name in case I got.
Yeah, Drop the Mask Pod. The guy, ANCAB Jason. Gosh darn it. It was probably in October.
Edson?
It was like a year and a half ago, but it was,
Okay. I think I know who it is.
It's hard to fresh because I don't want to say last names either. We're trying to be careful here because he just.
Well then,
but he got a new
he has a
baby girl. So he has a baby girl, so it's perfect. He just has a new family, so he's going to grow that way. So we love it.
Terrific. Yeah, good.
Well,
Did he get rid of the old family? Did he upgrade?
He semi-upgrade. He had a step, and now he's getting a full. He's getting all half on. He had to kind of test her for a while. You know how you have.
So he upgraded the operating system, but he kept the computer. That's terrific. I'm very glad to hear that.
Even better. I think that's exactly how it works. So Andrew, please, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself. And then recently you were just on a big podcast that I'd love to dissect because you weren't able to express your opinions. I'd love for you to actually get an opinion out before we.
I really appreciate that, Mark.
Because I'm an idea guy, not a person guy. So let's talk about the ideas. So welcome.
Let's talk about the idea. Well, thank you for having me. For people that don't know me, I'm Andrew Heaton. I am either a semi-successful comedian or a very funny journalist. I'm somewhere along that spectrum. I do two big things. I host a podcast called the Political Orphanage, so called because I don't really fit in anywhere in the landscape. I've got friends that are Republicans. I've got friends that are Democrats. I've got friends that are libertarians. I am interested in coming up with ideas that fix problems more than I am in picking a team to fight the other team in an internal battle. I'm kind of bored of that whole thing. And so I do the Political Orphanage. So, for example, there was a Supreme Court case about 3 weeks ago that struck down Trump's tariffs. While I have very strong thoughts on tariffs, we can talk about them in a minute. I did this weird thing, Mark, where I read the decision. Not a lot of people did that, but I actually just read the decision and went, hey, guys, this is what the Supreme Court said. So that's kind of what I like to do.
You read the verbiage and then put it together in the context and the comprehension in a whole to actually tell us the actual story?
I did. I'm such a dork. I enjoy reading Supreme Court decisions. And if nobody's ever done it before, they're actually in pretty plain English. Judges already think they're smart, so they don't do a lot of Latin. They're not trying to impress you. They've already the president already said they're smart. The Senate already said they're smart. They get to wear smocks. So they write in pretty plain English. But I like doing that kind of thing. I like when everybody's fighting about some particular issue, what I like to do is let's try to research the bedrock underneath it to figure out what the hell is going on. And then we can kind of work from there. But that's what I like to do. I also do political satire videos for Reason TV. We just had one go very, very viral about the war in Iran, where we did a game show called Is It War?
What a coincidence that you mentioned that one, Andrew.
Yeah.
Please continue. Yeah, we'll get to that one for sure.
And I sometimes write books. I wrote a book called Tribalism Is Dumb, which is, I think, what you guys at least reached out to me about, but we can talk about a lot of different things. And that book, Tribalism Is Dumb, I wrote because I personally just wanted to know why everybody became a dickhead in the last 10 years. Like growing up, like I would go on dates where I had entire relationships in college of women where I didn't know if they were a Republican or a Democrat. I knew what religion they were. That was very important at the time, but I didn't know and now it's inverted. We're like, I've dated a lady that was Persian. I don't know if she was Muslim or Christian, but by God, I knew her politics. So I wanted to know why
they were real and they were fantastic. That's all we needed to know, right?
No complaint. She was a cool lady and very attractive. There we go. So those are kind of my things. I'm a political satirist. I make fun of the government. I also want people to get along and fight ideas rather than fight each other, ideally.
You know, you just brought up a good point. You're in good company with us, because if we're talking about the government, we're all in on that. But I will say, as you were talking, I realized that if you wear a smock to work, you either have an amazing job or a terribly shitty job. There's not a lot of in between.
You're either a judge or a butcher
or top neurosurgeon,
like kindergarten art teacher or either Supreme Court justice.
It's either law or fluids. Those are it. It's just law or
neurosurgery.
Law or fluids. There you go. I like that. That's a good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, this is exactly the thing. Jake brought this up. It is your clip. We'd love to play the clip if you're okay with that.
Go for it.
Love to hear about it. Jake, you had a question about it before we play. Did you have a question you wanted to ask about the production value and all that, or we want to get into it after?
I want to get into it, but I would love to talk about your relationship with Reason TV, and then also where the idea for this came from. It's one of those things where as soon as you see it, you're like, God damn it, I wish I would have thought of this. It's so spot on and so funny. And so it's a nice short clip. It was perfect to be viral, but I just hats off to you for the production value. And I've noticed a lot of your other things too. And I'm wondering did you ever do radio, or have you ever, with the voice you have you ever done any sort of voiceover or read audiobook?
Arguably, as a professional podcaster, I'm kind of in that camp. Like the way I do it in my own mind is, if you were to look at the size of my audience, which is enough to sustain a good living, but not not crazy big, not the point where I need to hire security or anything like that. I'm kind of like the equivalent of a mid-sized morning talk show host in the 90s. That
is beautiful. That is a sweet
that
is a perfect spot. You got enough to get there, but you're not getting the radar. You're not getting swatted.
And people recognize me, but it's not a lot. Maybe once a month, somebody at Jiffy Lube will recognize me. So it's like I was hosting Good Morning Cleveland in the 90s or something, and I was the guy doing that. It's fine. It's very, so I kind of see myself as a radio guy here in the 21st century. That's probably the closest corollary. I've done a little bit of voiceover work, but not a lot. It's a tough business to get into, and on top of that, there's peaks and waves to it. So I did a little bit of voiceover work when I was in the United Kingdom, weirdly. Like I was just a friend mentioned something to me way back when I was like 23, where there was a bus company that was starting a tour system in America. And they brought me in and went, we're not going to use your voice. We're not going to use you, but we need this as a proof of concept for our investors. And I went, okay. So I read this whole thing about Washington, D.C. It was horrible. It was very boring. It was not written well at all. They were obsessed with square footage. It was just an hour of me going, and on your right is the IRS building.
Was it a ballroom they were
9
installing? What were they
9,000
measuring
square
for the
feet.
ballroom? What was going on?
It was far enough back that they were. I've no doubt that would make it today. Sadly, like, and they didn't even tell me that I made the cut, because like years later, I was walking by a bus and I heard myself gibbering on about the square footage of the Department of Defense or something like that. Later, it turns out that it was a double-decker bus system, and a guy stood up as they were going underneath an overpass, and that put an end to that. So no more of that. But in terms of friendly advice, though, for people looking to go into voiceover work, I wouldn't. I have friends that are professional voice actor guys, and it was already a tight market like 10, 15 years ago. I looked into it. When I moved into New York, I took some classes. I kind of played around with it, but I have a classical broadcaster voice, and this is just how I talk. If we were speaking on the phone, this is how I sound like. I got there right after there'd been a big SAG-AFTRA strike, and as a result, they were really cultivating random people that sounded normal. And so after that, like commercial work really went to like, hey, I love Subway sandwiches. I'm from the Bronx. Like it turned into that. They didn't want Clark Kent. And now they pretty much just want celebrities. And then AI is gonna automate so much of that stuff too, where the director can sit down, and rather than having to work it out with a guy, the director can just record it and then turn the voice thing into old black guy, young white woman, whatever the thing is they need. So I'm happy
they can just type it out now. They can literally cut out the whole transcript and do it. And it is funny because you talk about Oklahoma, and I don't hear the Oklahoma in you. Now, I've worked very hard. See, I'm from Philadelphia. When you're talking about going over there and you're going from South Philadelphia and you're coming home and you're drinking water, you have to sound like that. But when you're trying to be on a podcast and you're trying to drink water so that people understand what you're saying, did you have this voice always, or did it kind of, because I've worked mine out over time, not intentionally, it's just worked out over trying to become more refined, not refined, just more better communicator, I guess.
Little of A, little of B. So being from Oklahoma, I'm from Edmond, which is just outside of Oklahoma City. It's part of the greater Oklahoma City metropolitan area. If you're from Oklahoma, or I would say Texas or Kansas, and you're from a major city, you probably sound similar to me. Like people in Oklahoma City and Tulsa have a little bit of an accent, but it's really not very noticeable. It's much more of that clear-cut accent. There was a touch of it, but when I was in high school, whenever you would hear Oklahoma come up in popular culture on a sitcom or something, it was always in this context: fresh off the bus from Oklahoma. And it always denoted a hayseed dimwit that's been thrust into the big city. And I asked my parents, I was like, wait a minute, are we hillbillies? And they were like, yeah, we're kind of rednecks. That's kind of the thing. And unfortunately, being a teenager, I was so deeply insecure at that time that I watched all this Frasier to beat it out of me, and would practice elocution by watching Kelsey Grammer.
All salads and scrambled eggs.
Yeah. I kind of regret that now. I wish I had more color in my accent. It comes out when I'm drinking, if I'm talking about agriculture. Like if you and I were to like have a discussion about a riding lawnmower, you'd find me to be a lot more earthy and Oklahoman. And I really
it'll just go off the rails if we start doing that.
No, I get like I've become successful enough to become one of those irritating people that uses summer as a verb. So I summer in Scotland. I go over there for 1 to 3 months, and I've like when I was over there, I kind of try to hide it, and now I bring a cowboy hat. I wear my ridiculous belt buckle I got from my uncle, and they love it. It's like they like if anybody visits the United Kingdom, go for regional color as hard as you can. If you're from New York, lean into it. If you're from Texas, lean into it. British people don't like us as a concept, but they love us as individuals, and everybody likes benign stereotypes. So
it's beautiful.
And now you get noticed at Jiffy Lube.
Yeah, you get noticed at Jiffy Lube.
There's one, Derek, with
Jiffy
a bad
Lube's,
Boston accent.
Jiffy Lube's another smock job.
Hey, to your listener from Boston, Boston's going strong. I've only been there one time. I really liked it. Everybody said everybody was an asshole. Everybody was super nice to me, and I liked
because you're white. No, I'm just kidding. I was just kidding.
Maybe that I was the right
A bad
racial
Boston
animus
joke.
there. No, but they all had the accent, which was great because it's kind of been beaten out of the country, I think, largely due to TV and other stuff. But like in Boston, people are like, yeah, like my
Knocking the
grandpa
car with a
got
blah blah. What are
laid
you
off
talking
from the
about,
factory, so he hit the guy in the face with a bottle. And I'm like, this is charming. Like I really like this.
And
And
it's
I
quaint,
like,
unless you're the guy
like
getting hit in the head with
Pennsylvania.
a bottle.
Pennsylvania's nice too, Mark. Pennsylvania is one of the most beautiful states in the union. Like it is really undersung in terms of natural beauty. It is a more like subtle, rolly, wooded. I mean, means land of trees, right? Something to that effect.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a really
Penn's
gorgeous
Woods.
part of the country.
Exactly.
And when you get into like Western Pennsylvania, I went to a wedding outside of Pittsburgh a few years ago. And what I thought was so funny was anytime a guy would address a group, like this happened 15 times where the priest, the dad, everybody, the priest would begin by going, okay, and then would say the sermon. Like everybody always began everything by going, all right, enough of this. And I thought it was really, no one ever noticed it except for me. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah. Well, it's whoever talks loudest and last in the East Coast nomenclature tends to lead the pack. Is how that works. So can we play this clip?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I'd love to play this clip and love to hear your thoughts on this, and Jake about this as well. Everybody, you guys, you're in for a treat. We got a couple other clips, but this one's a great one. So here we go, guys. The first one, Mr. Andrew Heaton.
Is it war? World War I. War. Correct. World War II. War. Correct. The Vietnam War. War. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. That was a congressionally authorized counteroffensive. Don't worry, we get right back on track with the Korean War. War. No, that was police action.
No, they had tanks and stuff.
Well, the police have tanks now, don't they, Carl? Okay, the First and Second Iraq War.
War.
They identify as military action. It's a bit like pronouns, except we kill people. All right, how about Libya?
War.
I'm sorry, that was kinetic action, not a war. Venezuela.
Well, it was an act of war, I think.
No, I'm sorry, that was a law enforcement operation, not a war. Iran.
It's a war. We're doing war things.
No, not war things. Preemptive retaliatory de-escalation action.
No, that's not a thing.
All right, judges. Okay, how about the war on terrorism?
War.
No, it was a coalition-led conditional operation. How about Afghanistan?
Afghanistan was the war on terror.
No, I'm sorry, that was a pre-authorized defense stabilization initiative.
Okay, can somebody tell me the rules here?
War on poverty, Carl.
Well, poverty, that's not even a
I'm
thing.
sorry, I hate to do this to you. It was a trick question. We don't have poverty in the United States. The Dow went up to 50,000. Couldn't even get that high. Amazing. Don't even worry about the Epstein files. War on Christmas.
The coffee cup thing? No, that's not a war.
There's a war for the soul of the nation and whether or not I can wish my children Merry Christmas.
Okay, you know what? I quit. I don't want to do this anymore.
Today's magical phrase, Carl, you just became a United States Congressman. Congratulations, Representative Carl. Merry Christmas.
It's March.
Well, okay, happy Hanukkah.
Dude, I gotta say, like, it is punched, it is so tight, it's edited so well. Do you write all that yourself? Do you have a team? Like, that was so spot on.
Thank you. We have a team. That was very much a team effort, that particular video, which is a shame because that's probably the best one we've ever done, certainly in terms of view count. So I'd like to be able to say that was all me, but no. If you watch Reason TV videos, if it's me standing up and explaining stuff, I did that. So if it's a video about why trade is good, or what we should do about student loan debts, or zoning or housing, whatever. If it's me coming up and being like free market John Oliver or funny professor, or however you want to do it, I wrote that. When it comes to the sketches, we do those as a group, but like someone's probably going to quarterback it. This time really was a bunch of different people. So Meredith, who's the team leader, I don't know what his official title is, maybe manager of team, something like that. He just texted us all on Saturday and was like, is it war as a game show? Is this stupid? And we were like, no, I mean, it is stupid, but like stupid in a good way. And we think we could probably run with it. Austin Bragg, who's the guy that was standing next to me, he wrote the basis for that sketch. I know I got in the John Bolton cutaway. That was my idea. I don't remember if I did pronouns or if that was him. Let's just assume it was him. So in this instance, I'm very funny comedic timing, but I'm only a partial figure in the creative process. And as you point out, Jake, the editing on that is incredible. Austin, who edits most of the videos along with the help of John Carter, is an incredible editor. That is a skill set which is very, very unique. If you can edit and be good at comedic timing, A lot of people can cut down a documentary. I'm not saying it's not hard to make a documentary, but getting the timing right for jokes is really difficult. And he was able to punch that down. And he's one of the other things he's very good at is we had an additional 5 minutes of funny material in there. There were all sorts of little things that I was saying and he was saying that we added in there, but he cut it down to that very, very tight, punchy format, which ended up being the right thing to do. You have to kill your darlings.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of really funny stuff in there that's hard to let go, but at the same time, to get the kind of traction that got, that was the perfect length.
So time to educate. Sorry to jump on here, but it is time to educate because we are a show here of education.
Okay.
Right? Here's Derek. Derek's been with us now, what, 2-3 months now? He's a very new, but he's been watching all our shows. So Derek, thanks for joining. So Andrew, would you like to take that question? When did this really start? Because all we hear is war at the end of everything.
Yeah.
So we think war and we think it's okay and we think it's, authorized and okay, incredible and all that stuff.
Great question. Thank you, Derek. So if you want a really full explanation of this, on the Political Orphanage, my show, I have an episode from 2 weeks ago called Why Did America Quit Declaring War? And I go into great detail, but I'll give you the skinny. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives war power to Congress, but it doesn't actually specify anything more than that. Like there's nothing in the Constitution that says how. It doesn't say Congress has the ability to declare war if there's a 2/3 vote in the Senate matched with a 50% or higher. Like it doesn't do any of that stuff. It just says Congress shall have the power to make war. That's it. So historically and constitutionally, we interpret war-making powers as being the sole remit of Congress. But there's also Article 2, which is the president is the commander-in-chief, which has always been understood as the president gets to lead the war, organize the war. Congress doesn't get to micromanage it. So while Congress can declare war or undeclare war and do treaties, what it can't do is tell the president, we think you should do more air control and less naval operations. That's the remit of the president. And then a secondary consideration in there, it's always been understood, going back to Madison, that if we were attacked, if there were a surprise attack, the president would, as commander of the armed forces, have the ability to respond in that moment rather than waiting for authorization for Congress. This creates a tension. So, like, you don't want to be in a situation where in 1812, the redcoats pop up over the hill. We weren't expecting them. And the president goes, nobody shoot. We're not allowed to shoot, even though they're shooting at us and they're plowing us down with grape shot. We can't do it till Congress comes back from lunch. He needs to have some amount of discretion there. You get into the Cold War era, which is why we quit declaring war. You don't want to have a situation where the president has to get a full vote from Congress to send back retaliatory missile launches. So that brings us kind of into the modern era. The last time we actually declared war officially was June 5th, 1942, against Bulgaria, Romania, and I was on a roll there for a second. There's one other country that falls out, but basically Nazi client states. That's the last time we officially declared war on anybody. During the Korean War, we didn't declare war. It was ostensibly a police action done under the auspices of the United Nations. So it was kind of like, well, and Congress didn't really care. Congress paid the money for it, so they sort of gave their tacit approval. When you get into Vietnam, which is really the first modern war in terms of how we legally approach these things, Johnson got permission from Congress to defend American interests from attacks however he saw fit. And the reason that they didn't want to use the word war was they weren't sure if we just declared war on Vietnam, if that would trigger a bunch of secret treaties with China and with Russia or any other communist power and then end up escalating in a nuclear war. So Congress authorized the war. It exercised its Article 1, Section 8 constitutional prerogative, and therefore Vietnam was a war in the constitutional sense. It was legally authorized by Congress. Whether or not you think it was a good idea, I think it was a bad idea. It did actually fulfill the constitutional obligations. But since that time, we don't ever call it a war. We call it something else. That way it's more narrow and it's more ambiguous in hopes that it will stop escalation from happening. And it's something that basically no country's done since Vietnam. Nobody declares war anymore. Everybody does what we did. The other constraint that now exists is we got authorized. I'm doing okay here. I know I'm rambling, Mark. Is this all right? Or do you want me to pull back?
This is great. I love the education. That's the whole point. Is look, this is fun, educational. We're here for your time. It's what you want to talk about. You clearly are well versed. I'm here to learn. So please educate.
So we go to war legally with Vietnam, although we don't call it that. It's kind of like if only Congress had the power to throw parties, and the president said, "I want to throw a party," and they went, "You're allowed to have a meeting, and you can have DJs, and we're going to pay for a keg, and we're going to hire a stripper, but just everybody knows it's just a meeting, but we're doing it through our powers, right?" So they do that through the Gulf of Tonkin
Resolution. It's not a stag party; it's a meeting. It's a
stag meeting.
People.
It's a stag meeting where we're going to discuss our friend's impending nuptials along with a stripper, but she's just there for the meeting. So that's the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. Vietnam, not very popular. So in 1971, by the time Nixon is in office,
I said, you don't say. Not very.
Even back then, not very popular. 1971, Congress goes, okay, bad idea. We are repealing the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, the war powering act that we enabled the president to wage war on. We are revoking. You're not allowed.
You mean
to
the one based
Vietnam.
off the false flag that happened?
That one.
That one.
Yep, that one exactly.
Okay,
yeah,
just want to make sure.
By that time, Nixon's the president, and Nixon goes, I am the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and I am allowed to pick the time of our egress from the Eastern Orient, and you don't get to tell me as president when I'm going to shoot or not shoot. That is micromanaging Article 2 of the Constitution. So he basically just says, thank you. He basically says, Congress, you're allowed to open the jar, but when the lid is off, it's up to the president on when the lid goes back on. Congress didn't like that, so they passed the 1973 War Powers Resolution, which is the statutory framework that governs war making in the United States today. And the law that was passed by Congress says if we get attacked, the president can respond to that attack for up to 2 months. And at that point, the measure has to automatically stop unless it is further prorogued or extended by Congress. The president can do military action in zones of conflict Congress has already authorized. So like with the 2001 authorization of military force in the Middle East, that's still in effect, meaning that if we get attacked over in the Middle East, basically the president can act without Congress because the war is already sort of nebulously going on. He is required to report to Congress within 48 hours of any new tactical action going on. That's because Nixon was just bombing Cambodia secretly. He didn't even tell Congress. Like no one knew he was doing it outside of the Pentagon. So that's pretty much it.
Sounds a lot like Somalia and Sudan. Oh, sorry.
Well, like you could make an argument that like George H.W. Bush and Clinton were responding to attacks, right? So Clinton in Rwanda, there had been attacks on U.S. embassies, and so you could there's some amount of gray room there. I would defer, like when in doubt, it's Congress, in my opinion. Like if when in doubt,
Trump last year dropping the most number of bombs.
Oh, right,
Somalia,
my bad.
For example,
yeah.
So, right. For
don't...
example, it's like one of those, and then we look at Sudan. It's one of the 7 countries, but it's UAE aggressing with our weaponry, so it's still like proxy as well.
Yes, I think it gets very messy, and I don't think we should have gone into Iran in general from practical purposes or for practical reasons, but smart people disagree with me, many of whom are John Bolton, and even if that is the case, like that, I have to say it's illegal by my read of the War Powers Resolution and the Constitution. We weren't attacked, therefore it's not falling under that penumbra of 2 months of military action the president can do. Had we got attacked, he would have been justified in 2 months of military action, but we did it preemptively, which means that it was illegal and unconstitutional. Unfortunately, Congress doesn't have the backbone necessary at this time to just assert its very basic governing powers under the Constitution. And it's a real constitutional crisis because basically the president can go, well, I can do whatever I want now. And it's now a precedent that's been set.
Congress wants to cover up Epstein just as much as the president does. So they're not going to keep him from starting a war. And then he's not going to call it a war until it's over, till he says it's over. Then he says we won the war. But before that, it's not a war.
No, so you didn't hear it today. No, today he both ended and started the war in the same sentence. Yeah. I don't think you heard. He's like, no, it's over, but it just began. It's, that's exactly how it is because it can be 2 things at once. But now it's
quantum war.
Andrew, you're a satire guy. I found a clip that I thought you would find satirical.
Okay,
but the problem is it's probably more serious than you guys want it to be. But to us, it should be satirical. I'd like to share this one. I'd love to hear you guys both your thoughts on this one because I heard this one today and I just got a chuckle.
Short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary, short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
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 Short-term and long-term.
Short-term blip. Hopefully this is a short-term pain. Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefits.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
I just got to know, like, do they get the binder that has, here's what we want you to read? Like, do they get a text?
Yeah, because they shipped out the Epstein file stuff.
Are they in like a
with
signal
short-term
chat?
gain.
Like, how are they all getting this all at the same time?
Yeah, that I got to say, that is disturbing.
Do you guys remember this? 4 years. Do you guys remember this in the last administration? How we called this out? The woke left has become the woke right. These people who called out, these people are doing the same NPC chip replacement, meat puppet, Jeff Dunham show. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it sure looks like there's a talking point that got distributed by the administration. The other option, do you guys know what Hanlon's razor is? Are you familiar with Hanlon's razor?
Yeah. You talked about on Timcast. Could you share about that? Because we do have the two Arkhams and Hanlon's. You described perfectly, but I'd love once again for this.
Yeah.
Audience,
so for this is kind of my golden rule when looking at anybody in media or politics. So Occam's razor is the simplest solution is probably the correct solution, right? When in doubt, err for simplicity. Hanlon's razor is if something can be attributed to malice or sloth and incompetency, it's probably sloth and incompetency. So like that one, the bit that threw me off was there were people on CNN and the BBC that were using that same phrase. So they're probably not getting the memo from the president. They don't like the guy, but they're hearing the other chatterheads talk about it. And then they're just doing that rather than doing basic research.
Well, because the greater point is war. I mean, they're all on the side of war. So we talk two wings, same bird all the time.
And like, God, like they're two man, like, we've done this a bunch of times now, and we're not good at picking foreign leaders. And if anything, I think this is more likely. I genuinely hope that the result of all of this is that Iran reconstitutes as a liberal democracy with individual rights. I am rooting for them. I hope that happens. I hope the Ayatollah gets overthrown by them, and they have a democratic, friendly government, and the Middle East calms down. I hope that is the end point that happens here, but the likelihood that that's going to happen seems pretty fraught to me. For one thing, if you want to really add a lot of popularity to an incumbent regime, invade it. When Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Russia in 1812, if I got my dates right, when he invaded Russia, Napoleon, for all of his horrible, horrible tyrannic tendencies, viewed himself as the embodiment of the French Revolution. He viewed himself as the personification of liberalism and nationalism as opposed to feudalism. And so when he went into Russia and the Tsar kept fleeing and the peasants kept abetting the Tsar, he sent out this big edict to everybody, and he went, I am your friend. I don't have a problem with the Russian people. And in fact, if you will quit abetting your Tsar and hiding him from me, I will liberate all of you. Right now, as I am coming into Russian soil, you are all the personal property of the Tsar. You were owned by him as property, and I am coming to liberate you. I will emancipate every single Russian. You just have to quit helping the Tsar. And they went, screw you, you're a foreigner. We would rather burn down our own farms and burn down our own homes than allow a foreigner to come into our realm. So if anything, I think this is likely to give the Ayatollah or whoever hasn't been bombed yet some popularity, because now the big bad guy is coming in. And then there's your
tribalism.
Basic tribalism, right?
You talk about the psychology of it. Yeah.
And there's also, I think, a distinct possibility that they're just going to have a civil war for like 10 or 20 years. I really hope that's not what happens, but I like the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is well placed. It's kind of like if imagine if the Marines also owned Google. Like that's like they're well entrenched in the economy and the military complex over there. And there's I don't know. I'm rooting for them, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, there's like 200,000 of them too, from what I understand, like ready to go.
It's a big situation, and it's it's not like in like 1810 when you can invade a country and go, we don't like this man anymore. He's not your king. The king is our cousin. Frederick, come in here. Frederick is now the king of your country. Like you can't really do that anymore. Like they've got a kind of Shaw type character, but even that dude doesn't want to be like an actual monarch. And he would, it's a mess. It's a real big mess.
It feels like I don't know. It seems to me like they're going to try and declare victory, which again, at this point, it's maybe the safest bet instead of just continuing with all this. But then it feels like Cuba's next. Like the way they went after Venezuela, because Venezuela was basically propping up Cuba, from what I understood, with cheap energy. And now it seems like now that that's cut off, Cuba's kind of withering, and it seems like they're doing that on purpose. That's kind of the next thing. And I think it's going to be part of that the Monroe, whatever they call it, the Trump version.
Doctrine, yeah.
I feel like that's where that's headed next after this. I think this is just like an opening salvo in some more bullshit for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I think that there's a very good chance of that. And like, I've come like full circle on this. So like when Trump was running in 2016, I was like, that guy's a lunatic. We shouldn't vote for that guy. And a lot of my libertarian friends had a pretty good argument at the time. I was not swayed by this argument, but the argument was Hillary Clinton, bona fide war hawk. You vote for Hillary, you're going to get war. This guy is an asshole, but at least he's an isolationist. He doesn't want to go he's running on no foreign wars and getting out of the Middle East and all this stuff. And I was like,
actually criticizing those who did. He went beyond saying I'm not for war. Like Ron Paul said, I'm not for war. If he would have actually shat on some of the people on stage instead of like just been a good Ron Paul that he was, they would, if he had a little more attitude or something, it would have had a little more.
President Ron Paul in some saner universe.
Well,
some
dead
saner
Ron
universe,
Paul, probably, unfortunately. So I'm glad I got to see him last year. So let's be honest. If he was a president, I doubt he'd be president long. Let's not kid ourselves.
Sadly. But yeah, like now, like, I mean, even in the last election, let's end the never ending wars. That was a big rallying cry. And here we are, we're intervening. We're doing regime change. We're doing regime change preemptively without consulting Congress. So we're back where we were, and I'd argue worse off because we're moving in an executive control, president gets to do whatever he wants direction.
Well, it's a good thing we're not $40 trillion in debt and have plenty of money to do all this too.
Right. We're not yet. We're only 39.5 trillion. Easy.
That's
man.
the upside because we have endless money to spend.
You panicking?
Yeah.
You panicking?
And Jake, if we run out of money, we can just dictate prices. We'll just have a bunch of experts from Harvard say how much bread should cost. So no problem. Like if we run out of money, we'll just say bread costs $1. What could possibly go wrong?
Who are we to worry?
Price control is great. We're going to get to all that because we have to get to the whole thing with Tim Cass. Because if anybody hasn't watched that, we had that. But before we do that, because I know you went to this on the after hours, let's hit Star Trek. You got a bot left in the back. You talk super Star Trek geek talk with Tim on Tim Pool's thing. Tell us a little bit, because this is William. William, you want to share your show? He's got like a Star Trek show with a bunch of friends too. So we got some geeks here. So just love to hear about what's on your wall there. And a little story.
Good eye, William. This would be a batleth, which is a Klingon sword. I finally decorated my wall. This has been blank for the last year, but I finally decorated my studio wall. Mostly pictures of comedians, signed pictures of comedians. And then I've got the batleth right there. Klingon sword, for lack of a better term. I actually used it in a Reason video recently. I needed a random cutaway. Like we were talking about pluralism and how in America you can worship however you want. And then it cuts to me in a synagogue and I'm going kapla. And it's sort of like I'm doing a bar mitzvah, but I've got a batleth. The joke being that I, the Heaton character, don't fully understand the difference between Judaism and Klingons, and kept it, wrote it off on my taxes, and then put it on my wall. So yeah, huge Star Trek fan. In fact, I've got, I don't know if you can see it, that you probably can't tell from here. That picture right there is me and William Shatner at Liberty Fest in 2017. He was the headliner, and they had me do warm up for him. They had me be the feature act doing stand up for William Shatner. And so I was hanging out with him in the green room, and Mark Skousen, great guy, comes in and goes, "Mr. Shatner, we're ready for you."
Mark Skousen, Freedom Fest 2020. You got to come.
Freedom Fest. I'm sorry. I feel horrible that I mangled that. But Mark Skousen is a great guy. It was Freedom Fest 2017. He goes in and goes, "Mr. Shatner, we're ready for you." And Shatner goes, "Okay. What is this about?" And Skousen goes, "Oh, well, it's kind of a political thing. The audience is fiscally conservative but socially liberal." And Shatner goes, "Compromise. Okay." And then he just talked about horses for 20 minutes, just winged it, talking about horses. But they had me do stand up for him before that. So right after his speech, I snuck over to him and was like, can I get a picture with you? And he went, you're very funny. And I went, fuck yeah. And so I got that framed. I have the quote, you're very funny, William Shatner, 2017 on there. Anytime anybody tells me I'm not funny, I'm like, well, unless you have captained the Starship Enterprise, I don't care about your opinion. At this point, to bring me to neutral, you literally have to go get Patrick Stewart to tell me I'm not funny. And that brings me to neutral. So anyway, yeah, frame picture of Shatner over there with me, Batleth over there.
That's definitely
I love
worth
it.
framing. I'm a huge
I love it. And the horse thing reminds me of the Generations. I'm like, when they put that little horse scene in, I'm like, that was for him because he likes horses. I guarantee.
I could totally see that. Yeah,
I'm
I'll do it. But I get to ride a horse. I get to jump over a ditch.
I'm a huge stand-up nerd, so I love all kinds of different comedians and stand-up. How long did you do stand-up, or are you still doing it in between this stuff?
I still do it a little bit, but not a whole lot. I was doing it very regularly from my early DC days till about when I moved to Austin. So that'd be like 2010 till 2021, 2020, I guess, because I wasn't doing a whole lot of that during the plague years. I still do a little bit of it, but it's kind of a slog. Like in my case, I am a good comedian. If you invite me to go do stand-up comedy, I'm good. I'm not in the top 1%, and I'm aware of that as a stand-up comedian. And if you're not in the top 1%, it's kind of difficult to crest six figures in stand-up comedy. Like,
yeah,
I'm told by my superior comedian friends that if I wanted to be a mangled road comic and chain smoke cigarettes and do the Chuckle Hut in York, Pennsylvania, and then drive to Longstain, Missouri to do, Backdoor Betty's Laugh Factory or whatever, I could, but I'd probably be doing. Honestly, I think I'd get very lonely.
It's the Chuckle Hut, man. It's always the Chuckle Hut. It's never the.
You're 100% right. If you want to be up there with the Seguras and the Gillis and all, I mean, you have to absolutely be, and to do that. Otherwise, you're giving up everything else that you're doing because you're a slave to the road. And
kind of where I'm at now is it's like I can go do that and be a B-level comic, or I can do funny videos with my friends at Reason in an air-conditioned room and then have millions of people laugh at me and reach more people in a single video than I could do all year doing stand-up gigs. So I still do it occasionally. I just don't do it as much.
No, I think I completely agree with you. I mean, I hate to ditto everything you're saying, but I think to reach an audience and to get the message out to more people, I completely agree. I mean, the videos are super impactful and they hit a giant audience. I mean, you can sit on your toilet and watch one where you're not paying to go to a comedy show or, whatever. You do it on your smoke break at work or something. So you're not taking the time to go out to the comedy club and getting that narrow audience.
Yeah.
Oh, he snuck in a Will Shat joke in there. Look at that. Little callback.
No, I'll do, but like more than anything now, I get booked to do speeches for political action committees, educational groups, things like that. And really, I just do stand up. But I tell them, they're like, "Do you want to be billed as a speech or stand up?" And I'm like, tell them it's a speech because it's going to be a very funny speech. Like if they just think that I'm a guy giving a speech and I do my stand up routine, I'm hilarious. So like lowered expectations, and I can look at my notes. So I just do that.
Without giving away too much, what do you political stand up, or is it completely apolitical?
I've got two sets that I do. Okay. So back when I was learning the ropes doing stand-up comedy, I was working for Congress during the day. I was a staffer, and at night I would go do open mics and whatnot, do featured spots, things like that. And what I learned through trial and error is that political jokes, I don't like doing political comedy unless the audience knows they're getting political comedy. I don't mind doing it, but in my experience, when I'm doing political jokes, the room kind of seizes up. Everybody's like, if you go to a comedy show, everybody sits what my friend Jeff calls suicide bomber format. Everybody wants to sit like 3 rows back as if maybe I have dynamite kegs on me or something. So the audience is already a little bit worried about the comedian picking on them. Now I'm a pretty limp-wristed Mr. Rogers character. I like the audience. I don't want to make the audience feel weird, but they don't know that. And so if I start doing political jokes and it's just a regular civilian show, everybody gets kind of worried that I'm going to put them on the hot seat, which I'm not likely to do. The other thing I've found, and it took me a long time to figure this out, in my mind, I'm an equal opportunist, and I'm going to make fun of Republicans and Democrats and libertarians. And if you were to read the transcript, you'd go, boy, that guy sure gave it to everybody. But
yeah, if it's funny, it's funny.
Yeah, but here's the problem. I think you guys strike me as guys with a good sense of humor. I think that you could take it, even if you disagreed with the premise of the joke. If it was funny, you'd go, I don't agree, but that's funny, right?
Yeah.
That's not that common anymore. Most people, when it comes to political satire, really only want to laugh at stuff they agree with. So what I found was I make fun of the Republicans. The Republicans lock up for a while. They'll come back, but they're going to have to reboot. While they're rebooting, I make fun of the Democrats. And the Republicans like that, but they haven't come back yet. And now the Democrats are.
You play
are
a
really
ping pong game. It's like a tennis game. Like
so it's like
you're juggling
both,
ideologies.
Both of their meters go down, and then I'll make fun of the libertarians. There's only like 3 in the room.
Yeah,
and they're just delighted that I brought them up. But everybody else, like, it's this weird thing where it takes a minute. So I don't typically do political stuff unless I'm doing a political organization. Then it's a lot of fun, because then I can tailor it and I can go what group is this? And I can do some inside jokes, and I can kind of make fun of them. Like, I got invited to do Students for Liberty in Nashville a few months ago. And I don't remember what it was. Somebody like politely heckled me in a fun way. And I made some joke about how like libertarianism is really just autism with neckties. And like the room loved it. They started going, autism, and like turned into this big thing. But like, that wouldn't have happened.
We relate to those. We know all of them. We know every autist in this country.
Well,
we have a database, but we don't share it with anyone. It's all okay.
I'll say though too, like, I think it's a weird, a double-edged sword is probably not the correct analogy, but look, like a Dave Smith, for example. Dave, started as a comedian, ended up finding the political arena. He's super smart, so he has this. You kind of get screwed, because if he goes out, then they go, oh, well, you're not a funny comedian. If they don't like his politics, they say, well, you're not funny. But then you go to a comedy show and you watch him, and he's hilarious. But if you don't want to talk politics, he has to get someone. So he's kind of boxed himself into this spot, and I think his saving grace is that he was a comedian first.
Yeah. I think you
and
get
his saving grace
is
Piers Morgan and all shows that he goes on, because like he's earned every stripe that he's made. I mean, he goes up against every single debater, has not turned one down. And the closest one was, would you argue, maybe was what's his name? The guy, the Reason guy, oh man, I can't think of his name.
The one on Rogan?
Anyway. Yeah, the one Rogan, Hughes, Hughes. What's his name? Hughes.
I thought you were talking Douglas Murray.
No, I was talking. No, what have you never been? What do you mean you've never been? Anyway, sorry, I digress. Hughes.
I saw Dave stand up, and it was amazing stand up without the political stuff. So I don't know. I appreciate it.
I knew Dave when he started out. I knew Dave during the first days of his punditry, because I was a writer for The Independents on Fox Business and subsequently Kennedy on Fox Business, which were the two libertarian shows. By the end, the only libertarian show. We had John Stossel for a while. We had Andrew Napolitano for a while, but they both went away. So I knew Dave when he was an early guest on there, and he was really smart. We liked having him on. He was a really good talker.
So it's Coleman Hughes, by the way. Just FYI, I totally spaced on the name.
Oh, Coleman.
Yeah, I got you.
But here we got Jason here saying hi as well. So he's happy to see you.
What's up, Jason?
Howdy, Jason.
So
I noticed Rich's comment says, so you're Lewis Black without the high blood pressure.
I'll take it.
Yeah, some guy called you Matt Lesko, which is the guy with the dollars on his suit.
Yeah, I see the Matt Lesko one a little bit more. I was about to say I think of myself as Norm Macdonald minus the talent. That's kind of like in my mind where I'm at. But yeah, Lewis Black minus the high blood pressure. I'll take it. I definitely look like
minus
Lesko.
The cancer.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, so this is great. So Andrew, we're so grateful that you spend time with. We've got a couple ways we can go. You mentioned AIs and scams, and I've got a clip of like a scam that has been going on for a while. It's more for just entertainment's sake. Or we can go to some of the Timcast stuff, because I couldn't even understand a single point you were trying to make, because you were getting straw man and cut off every 2 seconds by all three of those guys, and it was kind of frustrating.
Let's do this. So you guys know my mom's flying in to visit me. I'm going to need to leave in about 40 minutes, so that's the time we're working with. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Let's talk about we'll talk about Timcast a little bit. With the scam stuff, I'll just say that's the latest episode on the Political Orphanage. Brian Brushwood, who's a phenomenal guy, dear friend of mine, and extremely entertaining, has gone from one of the most sought after college magicians and magicians in general in the country to becoming a security expert. He got flown out to Quantico to brief the FBI. And I had him come on my show to talk about, hey, you fundamentally understand how scams work. What happens now that the bad guys have robots? And we had a long conversation about that. I think it's actually a very important one because I don't think people know what's coming, and it's going to blindside a lot of people. So that's on my show, The Political Orphanage. You can go check that out. In terms of the Tim thing, yeah, let me say a couple things. I've been on his show twice, and the first time was 4 years ago, and it was, I think we argued about tariffs there too. It was tense, but at the time, it was a good conversation. That first time around, we argued, but to his credit, he let me say my piece. I didn't feel like there was any point where I wasn't allowed to say what I was thinking. He never made any character attacks. And then at the end of that show, he offered me scotch, and we watched Star Trek together. And I caught some flack for going on his show. And I would tell people, like, look, like, the guy didn't make any character attacks. He let me say my thing. He gave me scotch with Star Trek. I should be so lucky as to have this experience on the regular. This last time it didn't do that. It was much more fraught. He accused me of treason at one point, and said my position on tariffs was because I was selfish. It was also kind of irritating too, in that I don't think anybody planned to talk about tariffs. Like, I don't think he was planning to go into it talking about tariffs. I certainly wasn't. Had I would have worked out a lot of my talking points beforehand, and I would have gone in and pointed out, like, we manufacture more stuff now than we did prior to NAFTA by like a sixfold way. We produce so much more stuff now. It's like physical stuff. Like, manufacturing never went away. We didn't outsource it. We just became really, really technologically adept at making it easier to produce. In the same way that we have way less farmers now, we have more food than we've ever had. Why? Because farmers are rocket scientists with tractors. That's why. Because our farmers are so intelligent, they can produce crazy amount of food. My position on trade pretty much boils down to comparative advantage and absolute advantage, and the idea that when you have countries specialize at what they're good at and freely trade with each other, they become very productive at what they're good at. We all get more stuff, cheaper stuff. It's why the world has almost conquered bad poverty in the last 50 years. Like, we've gone from half the world being in like child starvation level deprivation when I was born in 1984 to now it's like 8%. And that's trade. That's trade that did it. And it hauled out the developing world out of children dying in ditches and allowed all of us to get cheaper stuff. And it didn't make the jobs go away because, again, we produce more stuff than before free trade happened. What happened, though, is that we switched from making cheap stuff like sandals to making expensive stuff like jets and computers and pharmaceutical products. And we still make some of the other stuff too, but we have robots do it. And all that money that we used to have to put into buying sandals means we can now pay doctors, we can pay people with construction guys to build houses. It's actually created more jobs because we have more money to invest in things. So it's been a net positive for everything. Tim is a protectionist. He takes the position that you will ruin your industrial capacity if you have free trade, and that the question before us is more than just making the dollar sign go up. It's about the soul of the country and the culture that's associated with it. I respectfully disagree with him. I do not think he knows what he's talking about. I say that because when I brought up comparative advantage, he didn't register it. And I don't think you can have an informed, you can have a strong opinion. You can't have an informed opinion on trade if you don't know what comparative advantage is. And we talked about it.
And what's funny is I was watching that and I even had to, I know the concepts, but I had to type that in just to make sure that I'm even talking about it so I can keep up with the conversation.
Yeah.
So I can imagine someone who's not even versed in that to try to work that out while in contextually from what you're sharing with him. Plus, he made like palpable shift. October 2024, palpable shift. We all saw it. It was the weirdest thing. He was about to sell his soul to Daily Wire, and I went, oh my God, it shifted. I stopped watching literally from that date. I have not watched a show since I watched you on it, and I went, that's what this has become. And it felt like it's the whole vibe.
Yeah,
of it
what
shifted?
What do you think?
And it happens like you experienced that.
Because again, the first time around was prickly but fair. Like, it wasn't warm and cozy, but it was fair.
Right,
like,
and
I didn't have any
what he was, always fair. Yeah,
yeah. But this last time, like, again, I got accused of treason, and I've had people reach out and explain why he's really a great guy, and I'm like, that might be the case, but you can understand why when I'm getting yelled at for 2 hours, that I'm just like, I doubt I'm going to do it again.
Is it
safe
to say no whiskey this time? No scotch and no Star Trek?
No, okay. So I do want to give credit where it's due. Everybody else was very nice to me. Phil, who I think is the new co-host, I doubt I would agree with him on some political things, but I got along fine with him. There's a guy named Ian who's a really good guy. I like him a lot. I think Tim had to take off because he's now got a kid, and so just had to leave. It wasn't like abrupt or mean or anything. We shook hands, and the 30 minutes or so for the after show were fine. The 30 minutes after it were mostly us talking about Star Trek, which was a pleasant conversation. So it's not like it was completely bad, but I do think that it veered from a strong argument into character attack territory. And I if you know what you're talking about, you don't need to make character attacks. Like I'm a nice guy. I have good intentions. I could be wrong. Deal with my argument the same way I'm doing. So I throw this question to you. What do you think happened exactly? Oh, real quick, because William's asking me. Derek. William, the name of my podcast is The Political Orphanage. The Political Orphanage. Check it out. It's designed for people that don't fit into the red team, blue team thing, like figuring out how things work, like being challenged, as opposed to just bare knuckle tribalism. Might be a place for you. So yeah, Mark and Jake, I'm not super familiar with Tim. But there was a palpable change. I don't think he's having a good time. He didn't strike me as very happy. What do you think happened in between?
I think once
Go ahead, Mark, and I got my
an audience. Yeah. I think the audience, he's captured by the audience that captured him. So the audience is guiding him, or whatever is keeping the prosperity for him is the one guiding him. I mean, this is the point. Like, institutions are always corrupted because humans are fallible. Like, we talk about tribalism, right? It's like, no, you don't ask what's the difference between the political parties. Ask the difference. What's the difference between the humans in said parties? And that is nothing. Nothing is different between the humans in said parties. This is where the crux, I think, of the position is. But to your point, Tim was awful. How does he not realize that the culture moved to video games playing Skate or Die on Nintendo? And that's where we got lazy, fat, and shitty. We stopped going outside and drinking from the garden hose, and we had to put a helmet on before we could even touch our bicycles. Now, you know what I mean? It's like, that is the we changed the world. You're right. The culture changed, but the culture got soft because that's how cycles happen. This is almost like the turning type stuff, right?
No, that makes a lot more sense to me. And I struggled. I went back and I listened to it, and like, I think what he was saying with the skateboard analogy was twofold, that because skateboard manufacturing had moved to Asia, the skateboard manufacturers were no longer sponsoring tournaments. I don't think if they're selling them over here, they would presumably still have that impulse. So I don't think that's particularly logical, but that was one thing. The other thing he was saying was that because you don't have skateboard manufacturing over here, the culture's disappeared because you don't have guys working at the skateboard factory passing it on. I think that's specious because, like, my guess is the majority of people playing piano don't have a dad that works at a piano factory. Like the patrilineal descent of culture is not that strong, particularly with hobbies. So yeah, I thought he was wrong about that. To the audience capture,
I think it's counterculture, to be honest. Let's be honest. Skating arose as like a thumbing the nose to like authority, right? Like, remember, you use your skateboards to break into places, or you use it to protect yourself, or that's how you got around, right? That's how you when you were underage and couldn't drive. So that was a counterculture. When it became culture, the culture looked for another counterculture. That's how usually counterculture things that become fatty. What are fidget spinners and beanie babies? And these are fads. And that doesn't discount the quality.
We're just
of
looking
skating.
like kind of everything's kind of declined in terms of participation, like dating, the amount of people that hang out with friends multiple times, like everything's kind of, it's smartphones and TV and stuff like that. The audience capture thing, I think, is a salient point. I don't know a whole lot about Tim's audience other than the ones that yelled at me this last time. I will say I know a lot of people in media that live in fear of their audience. You don't want to be there. You do not want to be in a situation where you're afraid your audience.
That's why I love where you're at. That's why I love where you're at. You were in this sweet spot of like, look, I get to do what I want, and it's enough people that like what I want to make it a life. And that's really what you should look at.
So fortunate in that regard. And part of it, I did a sneaky thing very early on that I'm really glad I did. So the show started originally as a daily program on The Blaze, which is Glenn Beck's network.
Yeah.
And but I was the odd man out. I was the, like, I don't know. I would say I'm a classical liberal. I usually just say I'm an independent. They would put me in the libertarian slot. That's fine. I was still an odd man out because I wasn't a Republican. So a lot of people would write into the show, And when they would write in like an argument against me, but it was a polite argument, I would read it out loud on air, and I'd go, this is why I like this audience. You guys like being challenged. And when you are confronted with an idea you don't like, you tackle the idea rather than making character attack, shout out to you, Bill, or whatever. And it just sort of like set the tone where moving forward, everybody was like, oh, so I'm allowed to disagree with you. I just don't have to be a dick about it. And I was like, actually, I would love it if you disagreed with me, because I don't want to perform for an echo chamber. I don't want to be wrong any longer than I have to be. So if I am incorrect about something, I want you to let me know about it. And I've had a couple of moments in the Political Orphanage now where I went to bed and thought this might all be over. Like when Roe v. Wade got overturned by Dobbs, I did an episode where I read the Supreme Court decision on Dobbs. And I went, I'd never wanted to get into the abortion stuff. I don't like talking about it. My audience is divided on it. I don't know what the exact proportion is, but I know it's not monolithic. But I thought about it, and I was like, this is my job. My job is to talk about this stuff. So I'm going to read the Supreme Court decision. I'm going to explain it to the best of my abilities and just see where the cards fall. And I was I hit the publish button and I went to sleep knowing like tomorrow I might be out of a job. This might piss off enough people that I got to go do real work instead of what I'm doing. And the exact opposite happened. Thank God. The audience wrote in, like people that were pro-life, people that were pro-choice, both of them wrote in and were like, I'm so glad somebody actually took the time to read this thing and explain it so that I know what's going on. And it was like light bulb moment of the people that listen to the Political Orphanage like being challenged. They like understanding the actual complex issues. And I am able to carve out this niche as a bacteria on the geyser flap of an air vent at the bottom of the ocean, because there are just enough of those people to support my lifestyle.
But that's the place to be, honestly. That's because you can stay true to yourself. You can stay true to your beliefs and your ideology, whatever, and you don't have to compromise. Back to the Tim thing real quick. My take, I've never really been a fan of his. I never watched a lot of the shows, and it's nothing against him back then. It was just, it wasn't my thing. I didn't really agree with most of his opinions. I didn't really like his format. He seemed to kind of yell a lot, and it was like, all right, fine. I've had this before. It seemed to me like he went viral too many times. He got too many eyeballs on the show. He had too many clips of him reacting in a way that, to Mark's point, audience capture. I think he realized, oh, this is what gets the clicks. This is what gets the listens. This is what's attracting people. And I think he's kind of boxed himself in, where if he doesn't do that, then he feels like he's got to keep going. And in the meantime, we've had Clint Russell's show, Liberty Lockdown, has completely taken off. And there's so many other shows that do what Tim does, but better. And I think he's realizing now that it's a little bit saturated with his shtick, so to speak. And I think he's kind of getting angry about it. And to your point, I don't think he's a happy person. And no shade on him. I don't know the man, but the appearance that I get is he's unhappy.
I think he took a side that he doesn't like, and he's not liking the side he's on, but he's locked in. You can't get out of that. once you're in it.
And plus, like, he's also in a weird space too, where like I don't have a staff. I've got two like part-time editor contractors on an ad hoc basis, but it's not like they're not dependent on me for their income. It's just like, for them kind of hobby level. So I'm not having to pay anybody that's their livelihood. He's definitely doing that. He's got a whole infrastructure out there that he's working with. He's also like I don't relish this at all, but they had somebody drive by and shoot at the property 6 months ago. He's got an armed guard out there. So I think he's aware that, particularly with Charlie Kirk, I am neither big enough nor inflammatory enough that's something that I'm really worried about, but he is. And so he's kind of like isolated out there. And I hope that if and when we run into each other again, he's a little bit happier and we have a better conversation. Cause I'm rooting for that. I would hope if we meet up again, it'll be under better circumstances.
He needs to stop doing a Nick Fuentes impression, is my opinion.
Well, like
I'm neither big enough, but I am volatile enough. So, mine will be a suicide, which I am not wanting to do. I am happy to be alive, but it'll be something like, dude found dead in his room because he hates himself or something like that. Yeah. Because we're not big enough yet,
Speaking broadly, rather than talking about any particular person, one of the problems that you've got in the media landscape at the moment is when you've got the collapse of the old institutions, which I don't really bemoan that much. Having worked in television, I'm hasten the day when cable television goes away. I don't think it's a good medium in general. So I'm good. I'm glad for that to go away. But you have the old guard kind of going away. with new media, of which we're all members of it, we're all kind of fighting for attention, and it's a pretty saturated field. So like podcasting was on the up and up in like, I don't know, 2008 till about 2022. And it's kind of saturated. Like I've at first I thought I was slowing down, but then I've talked to a bunch of people and it's like, kind of wherever you were in 2022, it's harder to get beyond that. Like you might get a little bit of growth, you get some churn, you can break that. But if your method of breaking that is to be bombastic, if your method to attract attention is to say radical or inflammatory things, you have to keep doing that, and you have to keep doing it more, because the new guy coming up from the side, he's going to try to out radical, and he's going to try to out exacerbate you. And I don't ever want to be in that position where in order for me to continue feeding my dog and living in a house, I have to be angry for a living, or I have to make people angry for a living. I don't want to do either of those things.
I do have a question about that to expound. I think you're absolutely correct about the people. The thing is, it's almost like Tim's a representation. It's not about Tim, clearly, like, but Tim was a new guard who then kind of solidified the early, like, foundational new guard, right? Like the replacement of dinosaur media is him, but he's now the foundational rock, the representing the dinosaur media. And we move so quickly that none of us want like this concrete thing locked in anymore, because it's such a fluid, dynamic world that it's almost like there's always the next thing. Because once you become this establishment, they're looking for the next, because that's what the idea of podcasting is always about the next idea or the next thing.
Well, speaking of next idea, I'm going to segue this. I know you have another clip you wanted to get to. I want to respect Andrew's time because I know he has like 10 minutes left. He's got to bounce.
Please.
If there's anything else you want to clip and discuss, let's do that so we don't miss it.
No, not at all. I was going to share this about a little bit of a scam. We can stop this at any time, so I'll just let her go.
Be a blessing, because I'm telling you, there's an anointing of release right now. I want $100,000 to come in. I want $100,000. There are 10 people that could give $10,000. There's 100 people that could give $1,000. Get a check, make it payable to Paula White Ministry. There are people that are watching right now. If you say, I don't have it, give $100. Bring up a sacrificial seed. This isn't for me. This is about kids that will die without you being obedient. This is about kids who are going to be minstrels and instruments and warriors and mighty for God. This is about kids who will make a difference. I'm not going to take everybody's blessing. Come on. I'm going to tell you, get a seed of sacrifice. Get in the arena. Get in the arena. I need you to stand. There's only 3 envelopes. I'm not moving. I'm not going to lay hands on people till you're obedient. Get out of your seat. Come on. And come.
This isn't for me. I like that. This isn't for me.
Make it out to Paula White Ministries, but this isn't for me. And I'm not going to lay hands on anybody till I see more than 3 envelopes on that stage. I mean,
I guess I'm not familiar with that particular lady, so I can't speak to that. But I don't know. It struck me as pretty righteous gemstones based on what little I saw.
Yeah, but not.
It is. I just thought I'd share it because it's like one of those ones. It's like one of the original ways to try get you tribal, right? It's like get you in a group. And to your point, Andrew, it's like let's look at Iran's a great example. You basically kill the equivalent of the Pope, okay, for their group. Now that group. Sometimes it's just Koresh and there's only 50 of them. Okay. That's one thing. This is 1.6 billion people that you just killed. This isn't like one small little thing. And it's kind of like, to your point is I'm going to choose my group before I choose the bigger group. Like if I choose fraternity, if I'm in a fraternity, I'm going to choose Greek over non-Greek. Right? For example, in a college thing, then you choose the guy fraternity over the girl fraternity, then you choose your fraternity, right? But like there's hierarchies of this tribalism, and it's interesting watching it blossom.
Hey, dude, I wrote a whole book about this. I've got, hold on, I'm supposed to show a copy.
Yeah, it's almost like the perfect ending for the show. It's almost like a perfect way to do it. Yeah, like share all that before
I wrote this book. It's called Tribalism. There we go. Tribalism is dumb. Let's see, is it gonna? There we go.
I was impressed.
Tribalism is dumb.
Fully dressed. I thought it was just the jacket and shirt and like some sweats.
Yeah, you know, I think it might, like my approach to fashion is everybody's an action figure. Like, you know, like the Muldoon action figure from Jurassic Park always has a safari outfit. Superman always has a cape. This particular action figure always has a blazer. It just comes that way. It doesn't matter where I am. If I'm if I'm meeting somebody at 6 a.m. hungover for donuts and cigarettes, I will rock up in some old blazer. But yeah, I wrote this book called Tribalism Is Dumb, subtitled Where It Came From, How It Got So Bad, and What to Do About It. And the premise to the book is that as a comedian, I knew going into comedy that people are really, really strongly affected by death and sex. Like, I already knew going into comedy that a significant amount of jokes involve aging or death, which are the same thing, and getting laid, romance, dates, which is mating, same thing, right? Like probably, I don't know, 70%. It's really, really high up there when you actually think about it. What surprised me when I got into comedy that I did not anticipate coming was that tribe is, if anything, stronger than both of those. Like if I go do stand-up sets and I make fun of a guy in the front row for not getting laid, probably not going to get in trouble. I make fun of somebody for, old timer, and I make a boomer joke or something, like, probably fine. But if there's somebody in the front row in a Green Bay Packers jersey, and or hold on, I'll pick on the Raiders. There's a Raiders guy there, and I go, Raiders, like does your guy, like your bull cut team owner, even live in Las Vegas? Like, isn't he on a boat in Florida? And like half the people on your team nobody from your team's from Nevada, because they're all mercenaries. Like, people lose it when you do that. People have a very strong desire to be a part of a tribe. And that's good when it's a healthy tribe. It's good when people find an outlet for belonging and meaning and being bigger than themselves. That's a very healthy thing. But we've had a collapse of that. And the last man standing in the United States is politics, which is the worst tribe to build your identity around. Because like, if you're going to be like a Methodist, you could theoretically do your entire life in Methodism and never wake up in the morning to stop the Catholics. You can. That happens a lot in religion, but it doesn't have to. You don't, like, I was Eastern Orthodox for a long time. We didn't like get motivated to like, man, the midterms are coming. We got to beat those Lutherans. Like, that wasn't what we were thinking about.
They used to. Kennedy was the first Catholic elected, technically.
For sure.
But yeah, to your point, you're right. You're right.
Religion is very easily captured by tribalism. It's extremely easy to co-opt it, but it doesn't have to be that way. But like partisan politics, conversely, you're not going to have an animated Republican Party unless it's animated against the Democrats, or vice versa. And when you make your group identity fighting another group, that becomes problematic. And so I think we've had this kind of toxic regression into bad tribes, where we've decided that we're going to fill this gaping hole in our heart with political parties, and their political parties should be boring. Political parties should be vehicles for policy changes. They shouldn't be the core of your identity. Like growing up, as I said, like at the beginning of our conversation, I dated people that I didn't know their party. I found out when I was in college that like half my conservative relatives in Oklahoma were Democrats. And I was like, what? You're way more conservative than I am. Why are you a Democrat? And the answer was, they never really thought about it that hard. Like Oklahoma was a Democratic state when they came of age, and it was just a thing to fill out. It wasn't really what they thought of themselves as. Was, I'm a dad. I'm a deacon at the local church. I'm a farmer. Those were the things that were their core identity. And then it all turned into this. And politicians know it. And politicians want you to be angry, and they want you to be afraid, because it's a lot easier to get you to do their shit and pay taxes to them and kill teenagers in other countries when you're afraid and you're wanting to fight the bad guys in your own country. And I won't do that. I will fight bad ideas, but I'm not going to lay waste to my own country in order to further my personal ambitions.
I would think, first of all, I don't want to step on that. That was an amazing point. Very well said. I would think that when it comes to a group or a collective, if your approach to that group is contributing or a contribution, that's when it's healthy. But as soon as that group becomes an identity, that's when I think it starts to get destructive. And I say that because I have not read the book yet, but as we were talking, I just bought the book on Amazon. So when it shows up,
I got one.
Read it and then see if my opinion changes after that.
38 cents to Andrew's.
I'd push a little bit on that, Jake. Like I like where your head's at. I think it's okay to have. It's going to be very rare to have people that don't have a identity that's not a part of some group.
Sure.
With a libertarian audience, you're going to find people that are very individualistic and think for themselves. And so you're going to have more people that are capable of constructing their own individual identity. Most people aren't wired that way. And that's okay. Like, I think the problem is when it becomes when it becomes toxic, or when the point of the tribe is just fighting another tribe. So like when I lived in New York, you could walk by the Hellenic Society Association, where old Greek guys chain smoke and talk about baklava. That's fine. If they want to be really, really Greek, that's okay. The problem's not when they want to be Greek. The problem is when they want to fight the Serbians or kick out the Jews or whatever the thing is.
You to be Greek.
Yeah, yeah, or when they want you to be Greek and everybody's got to be Greek, right? That becomes the issue. And yeah, so I think watch Andrew on Drop the Mask 2. We focused on the book. Yeah, check that out.
Yeah, that was that would have been like December of 2024, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jason. So
I remember that. But
I know you're going soon, so please, yeah, we'll call.
We got
we'll
like
wind it down
another
on your last
15
comments.
minutes. I'm going to try to be out here at 9:30. So
I love it.
You got a little bit more. We got like bonus time now. What do you want to talk about?
We're overtime. Jake, you got it, man. I mean, it's just a great thing to watch this stuff. I mean, the satire is great. Are you going to come to Freedom Fest now? You should come now because we're going to be there.
I saw Mark
it's in Vegas.
Some event, and I like Mark a lot, and I genuinely owe them a lot. The fact that I got to meet Shatner through them, like that, it's one of the best moments of my career.
And
so
and
I might
Kennedy hosts it too. So you guys can connect again.
Kennedy's great. So we were just texting earlier today. Kennedy, for people unfamiliar, she used to be MTV VJ.
Oh yeah,
and then became a Fox business lady. I knew her as Fox business lady. I didn't have MTV growing up. Let me just say she's awesome. Kennedy's great. I did not know how good I had it with her. So I hadn't worked in TV before. She was my first TV job, along with Matt Welch and Camille Foster, who were the other hosts on The Independents. Like I had no frame of reference. I just thought she was fun. Having now worked with a lot of people at television and been friends with other people that were on the production end of it, Kennedy was, I mean, Kennedy, this exact thing didn't happen, but this is the kind of thing she would do. Imagine the elevator doors opening and Kennedy just rolling out on rollerblades and going, "Who wants ice cream?" And like, we would all go get ice cream. Or like, maybe it'd be 3 p.m. and she'd like call me and be like, "Have you got most of your work done?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Great, because I just came up with this awesome cocktail. Do you want to check it out?" And like, we'd go down to her office and have a cocktail. Super fun lady. She is exactly the same off camera as she is on camera, only with more dick jokes. That's the only difference between her on and off camera. She's great.
Well, that's a hell of a pivot too, to go from MTV VJ, like one of the OGs, to then pivot to Fox Business. That's a hard turn, and then to continue a career in TV. Like, she's got to be super savvy, and she's got to be pretty tenacious to do that.
She is.
Can you imagine Neil Cavuto doing MTV News? Could you imagine like Neil Cavuto or like Brent Baer? This is Brent Baer with MTV News.
Both of those are like inherently funny to picture. They're both very funny to picture. Yeah.
Kurt Loder,
there's a new clip for you. There's a new sketch.
Yeah,
for
the mind reels. I would pay to see that.
Kurt Loder.
Imagine that, something like Tom Brokaw, MTV News. Like,
yeah.
that would be phenomenal.
Well, how about this? Why don't I turn this for a minute? Jake and Mark, how did you get into this? What was the onus for your show?
You want me to go?
Yeah,
go, Jake.
So I used to do, back to your point, back when podcasting was in the early days, I used to do a show when I lived in Southern California back in 2011, 2012. And it was the Wild West. There was no video podcast really. It was audio only. Most people didn't listen live. You recorded a show, edited and posted it. That's when I was doing it. And I really enjoyed it. We had some really big name guests at the time. I got out of it, raised a family, started a business, sold a business, really kind of focused on that side of things.
See, that's the problem is I haven't done any of that shit. I got into podcasting, but I never started a family or started a business. That's hopefully in my 40s. That'll be what I do.
Well, if you're born in 84, I'm 5 years ahead of you. Mark's a couple years ahead of me. So you got time.
Thank God.
But I moved up here to Seattle and I did some podcasts with some friends, but it was never really serious. And then a mutual friend of mine, Mark's and I, Free, he has an amazing show called Are You Smarter Than a Politician on YouTube. And it's a great tongue-in-cheek way to push forward liberty-minded ideas and to really kind of take the wind and, take the piss out of things. So I reached out to Free. I said, I'm looking to get back into doing some podcasting. My wife's tired of hearing me bitch about anarchy. So how can I get into this? He goes, well, I got a buddy who has a show and his co-host just left to go have a baby. And he connected Mark and I. Mark and I have never been in the same room together. We started doing this on Free's connection, and we started co-hosting, and we developed this good rapport back and forth. But the first time Mark and I are actually going to be in person together is going to be Freedom Fest this summer.
Nice.
We're going to have a panel show
I
and have
should be there for that.
Do some live stuff.
Can I ask? So I haven't done the live stuff. So is it a thing where you record it live and like hardcore listeners watch and comment, and then you put it on Apple
Sure.
Podcasts?
Yeah,
Is that how it
yeah,
works?
basically.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely.
You know what? Like,
it's great. Like,
I-
for someone like your audience, maybe not as much as because you have a grown audience, but like we like to interact because I like to hear ideas off the things. And,
Well, you know what?
I
like-
love to share my story too. Mine's a different one than Jake's a little bit, but I started actually in 2020, but I actually started with cannabis and THC and CBD. I sold CBD oil back in the day for like a direct marketing or something back in 2017. But
Better than
what
snake
led to
oil.
that was I had a near-death experience at 13, Andrew. I left my body. I think I switched souls. This is where I go crazy. But if you've heard I sound lucid, right? Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to share my lucidity. But at 40, I wasn't, I had this weird thing. Like I didn't really want to be here anymore, but I wasn't sharpening razor blades or like loading magazines or anything. I was just in that that was my rock bottom. Was like, I'm not sure I want to be here anymore. Maybe I should go talk to somebody. So I talked to a guy who did NLP, and he was a nonlinear mathematician. He was into quantum mechanics. And I figure, hey, worst case scenario, I'll talk physics with the guy. Why not? Right. So I go into his room. He looks at me. He goes, "You're different. Water works." And then he sent me through a guided meditation, and I saw a vision. I saw the vision of Clementa Pinckney get shot the week before he got shot. And I can tell you 100% that is what I saw. There is no doubt. And I have seen things that happen in the future. I say things that happen, and I have no idea how any of it happened. My other podcast is called Knocked Conscious because of that. It was not, I literally it just opened up this weird thing for me. And now I'm trying to understand what it is. And I'm sent here to stop us from destroying ourselves. I know that sounds really strange, but
This sounds amazing.
Not in the big guy stopping it, more of like ground up, obviously, from I meet people like myself who have had experiences. Now, what I've experienced, I'd love to have a conversation with you about it because it is crazy.
Yeah.
But you can tell I've obviously a lucid person who just shares the experience.
That sounds amazing. I would love to talk to you about that. So where I'm at
love
was very religious. Like when I was in college, thought I'd probably wind up a priest, Eastern Orthodox, which means I also thought I got married, although that didn't happen yet either. So who knows? And now I am a friendly, low wattage agnostic. So that is to say, I think it's lights out when we die, but I'm not rooting for it. Like I hope the religious people are right.
It's not.
I just don't particularly
It's
buy
not,
it
but
myself.
it's not exactly lights out, but it's not exactly lights on. We'll share experience.
Well,
Once
see, but
again,
that's the thing is, like, I
everybody's had
love talking to
experiences.
people about it on the Political Orphanage. You might reach out to him. I had on Sebastian Younger. So you guys being the same age as me, he wrote the film Perfect Storm 30 years ago, whatever that was. That's
oh my
Sebastian
gosh,
Younger.
yeah.
He's a great writer. He's a war correspondent. I had him on because he had a near-death experience, and it was really interesting to talk to that guy because he's an atheist, and his dad, who came to him on his deathbed, who is dead, was also an atheist. So like it was these two atheists, one of whom was dead, and I was like, it was really. I'm fascinated by all that stuff. I would love to continue the conversation sometime, and I'll check out what is the name of your show? The other show?
It's called Knocked Conscious.
Knocked Conscious. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll share. I went on a UFO program one time on a UFO. I shared an hour of just my experience. Once again, clearly lucid. It's like what I share. What's funny for me is I'm an anti-theist. So for me, it's actually the institutionalization.
You think God exists, but you don't like him?
No, the institutionalization of the faith is actually the corruptive force, not the faith. Right? It's just like government is the institutionalization of your ideology. Religion is actually the institutionalization of your faith, creates these tribal bubbles, to your point, where it actually creates direct conflict because the institutions need to thrive. And the only way to beat other institutions is to crush them. So that's how it's actually about the institutionalization of things, not about the actual ideas themselves.
That's fascinating. I'm going to check this out. Would you email me?
Absolutely.
A link
I hope we can talk for 2 seconds after we close this. So so I know you have a few more minutes. Did you want to just close everything off before we call it a day?
Sure. Well, real quick, I'm gonna try this format you guys are doing. So what I do in the Political Orphanage is I do the main feed episode. I don't think I do a live show for that because I'm interviewing one person and it would distract me too much. But I do bonus episodes every week as well. And that might be a good thing for me to do, like on Substack or something. So like when I first got started, it would have scared me, but like now I've been doing it long enough. Like I'm impressed you guys are doing it. Everybody that's been chatting seems cool. So I might try.
Absolutely. We'll be happy to share you how to do it. Yeah. And come on, that's what it's all about. It's all about the ideas. All we care about is the messages. So once again, Andrew, thank you so much. Jake, if you have anything else, and Andrew, if you have anything else before we call it a day, I'm just so grateful that you joined us for this time and that we were able to connect.
My pleasure. Here, I'll make my my pitch to your audience. Hello, audience. Lord Uncle Heaton here. I host a program called the Political Orphanage. If you have been suppressing an orgasm while listening to my baritone dulcet voice, you could get that edging every week. If you subscribed to the Political Orphanage, you would get the personality you heard, plus a cavalcade of fascinating guests. Now, let's say theoretically that you don't like my voice, but you liked all the ideas. Good news. I wrote a book called Tribalism Is Dumb. Here's my pitch to you on why you should buy Tribalism Is Dumb. I promise you, I give you my word, that if you read this book, you will be less baffled by why the political landscape is a hellscape. I can't fix it for you. I can't make it so that you can fix your irritating uncle or your irritating niece. What I can do, and I stand by this, if you read the book, you will understand what's happening. You will understand why people became dickheads, and it's definitely worth the $12.99 that we charge for it for that amount of solace.
That's an excellent pitch. I'm sold.
I'm clipping it and putting that up on everywhere for you.
Great. I'll retweet it. Thank you.
Andrew, again, Jake, you're the one weathered the storm, man, actually through this. Any final words before, man? You were a trooper getting through this. I know you're feeling a little under the weather.
No, I'm going to go hit the sauna and then grab a whiskey. So I'm going to survive.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you
so much. Good to meet you both.
Everyone, William, Jason, Derek, who Amity and Free showed up. Everyone else showed up. Thank you so much. This has been another If by Whiskey. Andrew, please stick around. We'll get you on the other side of this. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Wednesday night. This has been If by Whiskey, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Subscribe to If by Whiskey. Fuck Liberty Lockdown. Subscribe to this show.
No, come on!